Back in 1977, Fonzie strapped on some water skis, flew over a shark, and accidentally invented an entire vocabulary for talking about TV shows that have completely lost their way. The phrase, jumping the shark, came from a radio host named John Hine. He eventually sold his website, which existed just to catalog these moments, for over $1 million. A guy literally made a fortune documenting the exact moment our favorite shows started to stink. Today, we're looking at 10 beloved 90s sitcoms that overstayed their welcome. These shows started as genuine cultural phenomena. They made us laugh, they made us cry, and then they made us wonder why they were still on the air. From lottery wins that destroyed everything, to lead actors walking away, to networks meddling where they shouldn't, these are the shows that just didn't know when to say goodbye. Before we jump in, if you're the kind of person who still quotes these shows, who remembers exactly where you were sitting when these finales aired? Do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. We're building a community of people who remember when Thursday nights actually meant something. All right, let's get into it. Number 10, Will and Grace.
It's my fault. I thought 2 bottles per person was going to be enough.
Maybe if we were in high school.
We're starting with a show that actually handled its decline better than most. Will and Grace premiered in 1998 and became the highest-rated sitcom among adults 18 to 49 from 2001 to 2005. All 4 main cast members won Emmy Awards. That's rare in sitcom history. But here's what happened. Friends ended in 2004, and Will and Grace had been writing that powerful Thursday night lead-in for years. Once Friends was gone, the show started shedding viewers fast. It slipped out of the top 20 during its last 2 seasons. Season 7 dropped below 10 million average viewers for the first time. Season 8 bottomed out at 8.7 million, way below the 12 million the show had maintained during its peak. The creative issues showed up too. Jack and Karen started as supporting characters with specific quirks. By the end, their absurd antics had been cranked up so high that any real depth was gone. We're going to see this pattern again and again in this countdown. Now, to be fair, critics have noted that Will and Grace doesn't have a single, truly terrible season. The decline was real, but gradual. Vice President Joe Biden even said the show probably did more to educate Americans on LGBT issues than almost anything else ever had. The legacy remains strong. It just ran about 2 seasons too long. Number 9, Boy Meets World.
Class dismissed.
Speaking of characters losing their depth, let me introduce you to the textbook case of what TV Tropes calls Flanderization. The term comes from Ned Flanders on The Simpsons. He started as a well-rounded friendly neighbor and slowly became a one-dimensional religious caricature. Boy Meets World did this exact thing to Eric Matthews, and they did it spectacularly. The show premiered on ABC's TGIF block in 1993. The viewership numbers tell a brutal story. They went from a peak of 24.1 million viewers in Season 1, down to 6.33 million by Season 7. That's roughly a 74% decline. In the early seasons, Eric was a fairly normal older brother. Popular, athletic, a ladies' man with real storylines about his future and his relationships. By Seasons 6 and 7, he'd become pure comic relief, increasingly dim-witted. In the flash-forward finale, he's got this whole Jesus-looking appearance going on and refers to himself as plays with squirrels. Fans have actually developed theories to explain the transformation. Some point to an episode in Season 4 where Eric smashes his head into a car window. They use that as the in-universe explanation for his sudden stupidity. That's how jarring the change was. Viewers needed to create their own explanation to make sense of it. The show had other problems too. A beloved teacher named Mr. Turner just vanished after Season 3. No explanation whatsoever. Topanga's parents got recast 3 separate times, but Eric's transformation remains the clearest sign of the show's decline. The saving grace? That final classroom scene. Mr. Feeney saying, "Class dismissed." Still one of the most iconic moments in television history. Number 8. The Nanny.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Say, I wonder if they've got a water slide.
The Nanny is a perfect example of what happens when networks force creators to resolve romantic tension before the story's ready. The show premiered in 1993 with a simple setup. Fran Fine, a flashy woman from Queens, becomes the nanny for a wealthy British Broadway producer and his 3 kids. The will they won't they tension between Fran and Maxwell Sheffield? That was the engine driving everything. Then CBS stepped in. Fran Drescher created the show, and she's been remarkably honest about what happened. She wanted to write a finale that kept the relationship dynamic intact. Fran would still be the nanny. Maxwell would still be her boss. The attraction between them would stay unrealized. But that's not what CBS wanted. The network pushed for a marriage, hoping to squeeze one more season out of the show with a ratings bump. It wasn't the creator's choice at all. Daniel Davis, who played the butler Niles, has been equally candid. He's said that Niles and CC had been oil and water the entire series. He never really bought that they'd end up together, but he had to play it because that's what the network-mandated script said. The show ran 6 seasons, 146 episodes. The first 4 seasons, with that romantic tension still intact. They hold up beautifully. The last 2 feel like a completely different show. Number 7. Mad About You.
What if the other one is like hanging way back? Okay, this one. Which one?
Whichever we want.
Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt created something genuinely special when Mad About You premiered in 1992. Helen Hunt won 4 consecutive Emmy Awards for her role. She also won the Academy Award for Best Actress while still on the show. The series racked up 12 Emmys total, and yet it sits at a surprisingly low 6.7 on IMDb. What killed Mad About You wasn't creative exhaustion. It was NBC's scheduling department. The network moved the show constantly to make room for newer programs. It bounced between Thursday and Tuesday night slots like a pinball. For the final season, NBC moved it to Monday night to prop up a struggling lineup. That basically guaranteed lower ratings. And here's the kicker. NBC then paid Hunt and Reiser $1 million per episode each for that final season, making the ratings drop even more painful. Reiser himself talked about this with obvious frustration. He said the show got shuffled around so many times that it gave the impression something was wrong with it. But audiences just couldn't find it anymore. And he's admitted that even he didn't know when it was on by the end. The quality decline was real too. After daughter Mabel was born at the end of season 5, the show leaned harder into broader, less subtle humor. Critics at the time called out episodes that were either extremely vulgar or just plain boring. The finale still divides people. It flash-forwarded more than 20 years and revealed that Paul and Jamie had separated. For a lot of fans, that felt like a betrayal of everything the show stood for. Number 6. Frasier.
She's horrible. I've made a ghastly mistake.
Now we're getting into shows that won everything, and then completely fell apart. Frasier won Outstanding Comedy Series 5 years in a row, from 1994 to 1998. That record stood for decades. The show accumulated 37 Emmy wins from 108 nominations. It was genuinely brilliant for most of its run. And then season 8 happened. Fan consensus on this is remarkably consistent. The first 7 seasons are classic Frasier. Seasons 4 and 5 are the absolute peak. Season 8? A sudden plunge that longtime fans still can't quite process. That season opened with a multi-episode arc wrapping up the Niles, Daphne, Mel, and Donnie situation. It was widely panned. Jane Leeves was pregnant in real life, and the show handled it by having Daphne gain weight. Critics called the resulting fat jokes bafflingly bad and offensive. Seasons 9 and 10 brought in Daphne's family members as recurring characters. The reception was not warm. The ratings tell the story clearly. By season 6, the show had climbed into Seinfeld's old Thursday time slot. It was pulling 20 to 26 million average viewers. The season 7 finale drew 33.7 million for the Niles and Daphne union. By season 10, one episode hit just 7 million. So why did it finally end? NBC ran the numbers and decided the show was too expensive. Production cost about $5.2 million per episode. Kelsey Grammer alone was getting $1.6 million of that. An NBC spokeswoman said it plainly. The finances wouldn't have worked for another season. Grammer himself has acknowledged that the show took itself too seriously in its later years. Even he knew. Number 5. Married with Children.
I don't know, we're not gonna talk about me.
Well, I'm not the one with a problem.
Okay, well, then.
Ed O'Neill played Al Bundy for 11 seasons, and here's what Ed O'Neill himself has said about that experience. The show was good until the 5th or 6th season. After that, they limped into the 11th. That's the star of the show, folks. His word, limped. Married with Children was the first primetime series on Fox. It premiered in 1987 with the working title Not the Cosbys. At its peak, it was pulling about 20 million viewers per week. Then the decline kicked in. In season 7, they introduced a character named Seven, a third Bundy child meant to inject some cute kid energy into the show. It backfired so badly that the character just vanished. No explanation. He later showed up only as a missing child on a milk carton. That's not a joke. That's actually what the writers did. Ted McGinley replaced David Garrison as the Bundy's neighbor in season 5. The website jumptheshark.com eventually dubbed him the patron saint of shark jumping. McGinley's been a good sport about it over the years. He once joked that it took him 3.5 years to kill the Love Boat, 4.5 years to kill Happy Days, and 7.5 years to kill Married with Children. But he's also admitted the label was extremely wounding to his career. The show didn't even get a proper finale. Fox canceled it without telling the cast or crew directly. They learned from fans and news reports. The final episode was just a regular installment about shoe trading, not a designed send-off at all. O'Neill pitched Fox a finale special where the Bundys would win the lottery and have their house destroyed by a tornado. Nothing came of it. Katie Sagal has said she constantly felt the series was neglected by Fox, despite the fact that it helped put the network on the map. 11 seasons, and that's how it ended. Number 4. Friends.
What are you guys doing?
Try it. I can't feel a thing.
I know what you're thinking. Friends? The most successful sitcom of its era? The show that still generates $1 billion a year? Here's the thing though. Friends stayed in the top 10 for all 10 seasons. It was the #1 show in America during season 8. The finale drew 52.5 million viewers. By every commercial measure, Friends was untouchable. But the argument that Friends went on too long isn't about ratings. It's about what happened to the characters and stories we loved. Season 9 is consistently rated the weakest by fans. And the most controversial storyline? The Joey and Rachel romance in seasons 8 through 10. So Matt LeBlanc has been open about how wrong it felt. He's described it as wildly inappropriate. Not because of anything scandalous, but because the cast was so close to these characters that it just felt fundamentally off. Rachel was supposed to be with Ross. The entire cast actually went to the creators as a group and told them they had concerns. The creators defended the choice. David Crane has said he loves the Joey-Rachel storyline precisely because it's wrong. They knew going in it would be controversial. Then there's what happened to Joey himself. Early in the series, he was a bit of a player. Street smart. Not a genius, but capable. By the later seasons, he devolved into this childlike character who could barely function. The episode where Joey tries to learn French in season 10, often cited as the peak of this transformation. The salary numbers tell their own story. The cast went from $22,500 per episode in season 1 to $1 million each by seasons 9 and 10. Production cost $9 to $10 million per episode in those final years. $7 million of that went to cast salaries alone. The creators have said they wouldn't have signed on for an 11th season, even if everyone wanted to keep going. Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave while people still want more. Number 3, The Drew Carey Show.
Oh, great, you're in heat. The buffalo seaman gets here on time. Maybe you can repopulate America's plains.
If you want to see the most dramatic ratings collapse in 90s sitcom history, look no further. The Drew Carey Show peaked at number 14 in the Nielsen rankings during season 4. By season 8, it had fallen to number 119. That's not a typo. 119. So what happened? First, Krista Miller, who played Kate, was written out early in season 7. Kate was the show's emotional anchor. Losing her destabilized everything. Then the setting changed. The whole show had been built around the Winfred Louder department store. That was the foundation. And the writers moved everything to an online retailer called The Never Ending Store. The show's identity just evaporated. Drew's romantic storylines got increasingly ridiculous. Multiple marriages, a sham same-sex civil union with Mr. Wick, a bigamous marriage to both Nikki and Kate at the same time. Fans started calling the character the impotent bisexual bigamist. Here's where the business side gets interesting. ABC was contractually locked into paying about $3 million per episode for season 9. They'd signed a multi-year deal with Warner Brothers. So the network put season 8 on hiatus mid-run. Then they burned off season 9 during summer 2004 with no regular time slot. They were legally required to air episodes they didn't even want to promote. Drew Carey's salary had climbed from $60,000 per episode early on to $750,000 by the end, a 12-fold increase that made the show economically impossible at those low ratings. The final seasons had lost that early charm. The storylines got more and more outlandish. It's a unique chapter in television history, just not entirely a good one. Number 2, That 70s Show.
Hyde, I don't get it. We're gonna destroy Mr. Foreman's house and that's supposed to make him feel better?
Yeah.
Losing one lead actor is a crisis. Losing two is a catastrophe. That 70s Show premiered in 1998 and ran for 8 seasons. It holds an 87% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Season 8's audience score, 23%. Topher Grace played Eric Foreman. He was literally the center of the show, and he left after season 7 to pursue movies. Ashton Kutcher also departed. He only showed up as a guest in the first 4 episodes of season 8. The 2 male leads who had anchored the show for 7 years were suddenly gone. The solution? Josh Myers, Seth Meyers' brother, came in as a new character named Randy Pearson. He was supposed to fill the void left by both Eric and Kelso. Fans hated him. They also introduced a stripper named Samantha as Hyde's wife. She lasted 9 episodes. 2 months after season 8 premiered, Fox announced the show was ending. Wilmer Valderrama has talked about those departures. He said the decision was completely understandable. After 8 years, it's okay to say you want out. But the remaining cast had to look at each other and ask a hard question. Do we still have a show? Based on that 23% audience score, the answer was no. The New York Times pointed out that the cast had started to look a bit too mature to still be partying in a basement. There's only so long you can pretend to be teenagers. The series finale brought Grace and Kutcher back for uncredited appearances. It's set on New Year's Eve, 1979, and it holds a near-perfect rating on IMDb. Fans appreciated the send-off, even if the season leading up to it was a disaster. Number 1. Roseanne.
I'm sorry, Harris, but I gotta...
Tag me in. You're babysitting. Game over.
The most spectacular case of a sitcom destroying itself in its final season. Roseanne was the number 1 program in America during season 2. It beat The Cosby Show. It stayed in the top 4 for its first 6 seasons. It was groundbreaking television about a working-class family that felt genuinely real. Roseanne Barr won an Emmy. Laurie Metcalf won 3 consecutive Emmys. The show was a cultural institution. Then came season 9. The Connors won a $108 million lottery jackpot. And overnight, the entire show transformed. The working-class family comedy became surreal fantasy. There were episodes where Roseanne saved Hillary Clinton from terrorists on a train. A prince played by Jim Varney swept Jackie off her feet. Exotic spa vacations. The show crashed from the top 20 all the way down to number 35. That fall was driven almost entirely by creative decisions. The behind-the-scenes story makes it even stranger. Barr wanted to produce an American version of Absolutely Fabulous, starring Carey Fisher. Networks rejected the idea. So in what can only be called creative revenge, she started incorporating absolutely fabulous elements into Roseanne's final season. She even got Jennifer Saunders and Joanna Lumley to guest star. And then the finale happened. It pulled the rug out from everything. The whole 9th season? It was fiction. Something Roseanne's character had written as a coping mechanism. Dan had actually died from his heart attack at the end of season 8. The lottery never happened. The entire year was fake. Critics were harsh. They said the worst part about the lottery storyline was that Roseanne became a show that mocked the family audiences had fallen in love with. The lottery made no sense at the time, and it didn't make sense for the next 22 episodes either. Barr was earning $21 million for that final season. Reportedly, the highest paid TV actor at the time. The 2018 revival premiered to 18.2 million viewers, actually more than the 1997 finale, and it explicitly treated season 9 as if it never happened. Dan was alive. No lottery. Back to working class. Sometimes the best thing you can do is pretend an entire year never existed. Conclusion. So what did we learn from this trip through 10 shows that didn't know when to quit? The patterns are clear. Resolving romantic tension too early kills momentum. Just ask the Nanny. Losing lead actors is almost always fatal. Just ask that 70s show. And that slow poison of flanderization, turning complex characters into one-dimensional jokes, plagued nearly every show on this list. But the real villain? The economics. The 100-episode syndication threshold. The escalating salaries that made shows more expensive and more valuable at the same time. The network desperation for proven performers, even when the creative well had run dry. The shows that chose their own endings fared best. Home Improvement's Tim Allen and Patricia Richardson reportedly turned down $75 million for a 9th season. Allen said that when it's just about money and ratings, it's just about over. Seinfeld ended while it was still number 1. Those shows kept their legacies intact by saying no to the money. The shows that didn't say no. Roseanne, that 70s show, the Drew Carey show, they carry permanent scars. We remember them as much for how they ended as for why we loved them in the first place. So next time you're watching a show you love and wondering if maybe they should wrap things up, remember this countdown. Remember the lottery. Remember Randy Pearson. Remember Eric Matthews calling himself plays with squirrels. Sometimes the greatest gift a show can give us is knowing when to say goodbye. Thanks for watching, everybody. If this video brought back some memories, good ones and bad ones, drop a comment and tell me which show on this list hurt the most. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more nostalgia to dig into together. I'll see you in the next one.